Most people's life stories are lost forever, but yours doesn't have to be. Good evening. For tonight's story of life story, I'm thrilled to be able to interview Alan Cohen.
Thank you.
Welcome, Alan.
Thank you. Thank you.
I usually start out by asking people where they were born and a little bit about their family background. So,
Okay. I was born in Chelsea, Mass. And Chelsea defined, I believe, who I am. I was lucky at the time that neighbors knew neighbors, neighbors looked out for neighbors. And for example, when I was interested in music, I had one neighbor who let me practice on her baby grand piano. Another neighbor who knew musicians would get me sheet music. So it really helped me to learn that you don't really get anywhere in this world without other people helping you. For example, I'm in the computer field, and I worked in a warehouse in Chelsea, and the owner just got a computer. He needed people to program it, so he gave me a job and he sent me to school at night. It was Leonard Silva, a guy named Lenny Florence. And so, I mean, without the help of others, really, I mean, that's what it taught me, that you don't get somewhere all on your own. There's always other people helping you. My dad, he worked in the post office, did some photography. I think he should have been a stand-up comedian because he was always telling jokes. He raised both of my brother and I with humor. My mom, well, during that time in the 60s and 70s, was the traditional stay-at-home mom.
right.
And so, yeah, she did her job, and you know, it was a nice upbringing. Good parents. So I always say the good points about me came from the parents.
Yes.
Maybe the bad points I picked up from friends, but I just joke about that.
Right.
But
You have a little
it
bit
was
of your
nice.
father in you.
Definitely, and
Yeah.
and you know, it's interesting just the change of times, because my dad a while back, you know, once told me, he said the most he ever made working was $21,000 a year, and yet we were a traditional middle class family, and now when you think of $21,000, I mean, that's pretty close to the poverty level,
line.
which is
Yeah.
kind of scary.
Yeah, but back then it was a good living.
It was.
Did your father? I think your father one time was into doing music.
Yeah, my dad loved the performing arts. So wanting to be a musician, I just sort of had the right dad. He didn't discourage me, he encouraged me. But yeah, my dad was very good at backstage type things. He could wire anything, he could hook up all the sound equipment. I had reel-to-reel tape recorders all over the house. My dad loved them, and so he taught me how to splice tape. And so he had started a small part-time business. Back then, when students went to dance classes, they had someone playing the piano for all the songs. My dad would joke that someone was dying at the piano because they never played right, the music never sounded right. So a friend asked my dad if they could record the records. He'd put it on a big reel of tape and then play the music at the dance studios and the recitals. And so it worked out well because, first of all, the students actually had the music sound just like that they were practicing. And of course, back then, recording music was more of a, not as popular as it is today. Today, everybody, either you have tape recorders, you can record on your cell phone. So, but yeah, that's pretty much how my interest in music developed.
And do you write music or do you play music?
I mainly play music. I play now for my own enjoyment. When I went to college, I studied how to write music. And maybe one day that great work will come out, but...
Where did you go to college?
I started first, I had a year at Berklee College of Music, but I realized that I was more into tune into classical music. Although I liked all the types, it just seemed like I could play classical better, I could understand it better. So I ended up going to Boston University, and I studied music theory there.
Great. Well, that explains your interest in theater.
Yes. Yes.
which is where I met you originally through the theater. So tell me a bit about if who do you feel in your growing up years or in your past year, who would you say was the biggest influence in your life? Or if you could go back and
Sure.
talk to someone and say thank you for being in my life, who would that be?
Well, actually, it would be two people. One, certainly my dad,
Yeah.
because he gave me the values who I am. And if people that know my dad and know me say the apple didn't fall far from the tree with carbon copies. But another was a person I met, Leonard Silva. He was the vice president. And I was working in data entry operator at the time. And when he needed someone to, he would drive into Boston, but you couldn't find a parking spot. So I would sit in the car, and if a cop came by, I would drive around and come back. And this was in the late 70s. And it was the way he approached life. First, he would ask my boss if he could borrow me. It wasn't like, I'm a VP, I need Alan. He would always ask first. And of course, my boss always said yes, but still, he asked. But one day we were driving, and he told me that, the key to life is doing for others. He said, you can be a millionaire, and if you keep all that money for yourself and just buy toys and waste it, you're not really doing much. You could be making $40,000, $50,000 a year, but if you give to charity and help people within your means, you're doing much more in life than the millionaire. And that was, well, now it's been, 40 years since he said that, and I still remember that. And so, Chuck Hill from Chelsea, and it's just something that stayed with me, and so that's why I always, when I can help people, but it certainly played an influence after 40 years.
What a great philosophy of life.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how do you see the change in Chelsea now as compared to when you were growing up, or have you been back there recently?
No, I have been. I mean, one thing about Chelsea, for most of its history, has always been a city of immigrants. When I was growing up, there were a lot of Jewish people, so Russian and Polish background. There was a French section of Chelsea, a large Irish section. So in that way, Chelsea is the same. What's different now is people we have from Cambodia, of course, from Central America, South America. And I think part of the difference is that not as many people learn English. I mean, it's normal, the first generation that comes over, if you're in your 40s, it's harder to learn a new language, especially when you're working and you've got a family to take care of. But still, I mean, they did it, and it's the second generation that picks up the values.
And the language, yes.
Exactly. So Chelsea now is more than 50% non-English speaking.
Wow.
And unfortunately, like a lot of cities in the area, I mean, there's not as many good paying jobs. Like a lot of cities, it does have its gang and crime problems. But Chelsea is also, on the upkeep. They have some hotels there, which are nice. They have a little art gallery. They have a Starbucks, which for coffee lovers is great. Who would ever think of a Starbucks in Chelsea? So it's like anything. It's not the way you always remember it. And unfortunately, I think economics has hurt it a bit. But all around, it's still not, a bad city to live in. And I think many communities around the U.S. has a similar story to Chelsea.
Right, and some are much worse. At least they don't have the immigrant population that is even working. Well, I know that you're speaking of work, that you've worked at various jobs, and that you're now doing some specialized work and have certain things that you want to talk about work. But where was your favorite place to work first? Your favorite job?
Good question. I think it was a company had an odd name called Abuzz, A-B-U-Z-Z.
Oh, that's a great name.
And it was just like before question sites or social media became popular. And I always liked the startup type environment.
Right.
Titles mean nothing to me. I like learning new things. So, I mean, we had a lot of fun. Another company, Rapid7, which did computer security. I had the opportunity to work with a lot of people that were light years ahead of me in terms of knowledge
What
of
is
computer.
Rapid7?
Rapid7 provides computer security monitoring. And
Oh.
so it can tell you, especially if you're a company, that maybe there's a virus on your computer or somebody's accessing it. And so I learned a lot about computer security. So I like jobs where I can learn new things. And I believe there's always a saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Should always be somewhere where you can learn from others. And I always like that, you know.
I like that saying. I've
So-
never heard that.
So when
That's
people
great.
call me a dummy, I take it as a compliment, as long as they know more than me.
Oh, that's great. And so for work now, what are some of the things that you're doing currently?
Okay, well, in terms of tech writing, I'm looking for work. I had a contract end recently. So if anyone's watching this, you need a good tech writer, I'm available.
Okay.
But I'm keeping myself busy in terms of some nonprofit type work with the Taunton School Department and Bristol Community College. I'm going to be tutoring some ad-need students. Originally, I was going to do English as a second language, but I found out they also need people to do math, and there's big industry for math. So even though I have a bit of math and anxiety, like a lot of people, I figured take some of the basics, and it's sort of a way, I always
learn.
yeah, it's
For
to
you to
learn.
learn, like
And
you
sometimes
said.
the best way to overcome your fears is just to hit it head on. So we'll see where that goes. I do like teaching English as a second language. The math option just got me excited, and I said, if I'm excited about this, that will show more in my teaching.
And we're at Bristol. Where is that located?
I'm in Taunton, Mass. I'll be at the Taunton Library on Saturdays, but Bristol Community College, which is out of Fall River, now has a satellite campus in the old Silver Galleria Mall in Taunton.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be at the library, since right now I can only volunteer on Saturdays as opposed to the campus. Another program that I do is called Musical Conversations. And I got that idea towards the end of my dad's life when he was in hospice care. He had a brain tumor, and so sometimes his memories would be off of where he was somewhere else. And so you always read that music brings back memories.
Yes.
I mean, I know the song of my senior prom, Color My World by Chicago. I can hear a song, remember who I was dating, where I was. And so I got this idea. I said to my brother, I'll bring in some of Dad's favorite music and see if that kind of jogs his memory. In his case, it didn't. But in the rec room where he was, a lot of the other people were wheeling their wheelchairs up, and they started listening to the music, and they started talking. And so I got this idea of volunteering in nursing homes, bring in some music, and really the idea is see if it brings up memories. If they may hear a song and say, oh, at my wedding, or at my daughter or son's wedding. And I was lucky when I first started it that the Somerville Council on Aging picked up on it. And for 9 months, it worked out very well. It started from a group of 6 or 7 people, more like a music club, to being like part of the lunch and entertainment, which was over 100 people. And some people gave some interesting memories, had interesting questions, and so I do that from time to time, and I do it for free. It's easier to sell something for free than it's for money.
Right, but giving back to,
Yes,
what a
giving
great
back.
feeling that must give you.
It is, and I joke
And
with
so,
people.
if any of the people in Milford are interested, how far away
okay.
do you live to commute to do
well, I live in North Attleboro, not that certainly far from Milford. I have a teaching website which has my email address on it. The website's called classroomwithoutwalls.weebly, weebly.com. So classroomswithoutwalls.weebly.com. And so they can contact me, and depending on my working schedule, if I can make it in the afternoon, I will. If it's an evening or a weekend, and it's a lot of fun. It is.
I would imagine that brings lots of joy to people.
It does. It does, and people react to music differently. You never know what they're going to say, and it's been a lot of fun.
And other than that, you're doing. I know that you've done a little directing of plays, and you're in theater groups.
Yes.
How many theater groups have you been involved in?
Actually, just two. Mainly the Miller's Theater Group, where I know you from.
Yeah.
But from that play, we had an actor in it, and he helped me with a group, asked me to run sound for a group in Foxborough, which was a one-time performance.
Uh-huh.
What I like about theater groups is that I think it provides a lot of training, even if you're in business. For example, if you're afraid to speak, to get up in an audience in front of a bunch of people and speak, and learn how to project your voice, having a director talking about how to move your hands, how to walk around, staging.
Right.
That's good training. Working behind the scenes, sometimes it's problem solving. As we know, nothing ever goes right backstage.
That's for sure.
You learn to work with people that, sometimes you have to direct them. You might be running the soundboard. You're also giving lighting cues or camera cues. And so I think there's a lot of good skills that you can learn from it, because if you can get, as a lot of people say, if you can get a group of volunteers excited to do what you want for no money and have fun, you have good management and leadership skills.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I never thought of that. So what plays have you worked on in the past?
Oh, wow, there's been many. The first play I worked on was MAME.
Uh-huh.
But then there was...
And when you did sound for that?
I did sound, yes. Wasn't intending to do sound, but I did come down for sound. It's a long story, longer than the segment and time we have here.
Right, all right.
We've done, what was the one? I think it was, well, it had to do with these three old ladies who were murdering people.
Yes, oh yeah.
Death by something, I think.
Yeah.
And a lot of different musicals.
Right.
Now we're going to be doing Shrek in March.
Yes.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. I know one of our creative people is just creating this immense and beautiful dragon from out of nowhere. So
Who's that?
Dave O'Gara.
Dave O'Gara. Oh,
yes, he sent me a video clip, and it's just amazing.
I mean, he's amazing.
Yes, very talented person. So
right.
And so again, it's also a good networking thing, because if I ever need a graphic artist, I know someone that can do the job, and I would not have known him if I were not in that group. It's good for communication people that, different things you have to do. So it's, you can learn from anything if you're open and willing to learn.
Right. And so getting back to your other work history, with this, what else are you doing besides? I thought you were doing something else with on the internet.
Yes, I started wanting to teach people how to code.
Right.
And it's through an organization called Coder Dojo, and it's all free. And my reason behind it, there's a few reasons. I mean, everyone has a smartphone,
right,
or an iPad or something. And, when you click on one of those buttons, press it, there's code behind it. It's telling it what to do. And I mean, there's
people like me, I have no clue what is it telling me to do. Yeah. Right.
Sometimes it does what it wants and not what you want it to do.
Right. Right.
But I mean, there's a few reasons why. I mean, obviously there'll be some people that want a career in coding, which is great.
Right.
You can use it for your own problem solving. For example, even in math, you can learn how to draw a square. You can learn how to draw a triangle, but you can do some really nice artwork by programming a computer to draw it, and you're practicing your math and your geometry skills. Certainly anyone that's getting a job these days isn't somehow going to have to interact with a computer.
Right.
Whether they like it or not. And so I think if they have a better, understanding, and one lady that I taught, her only reason really was for learning was that her grandson was 8, 9 years old and computers was his whole life. He was very good at it, and she just wanted the way, so when they're together, that she can kind of talk with him in his area of interest.
Oh, what a great idea.
So that was fun, and so I use a story-like children's-like language called Scratch, which you can get from MIT free of charge. You can download it. And the way you learn to program is by having cartoon-like characters do different things, have them move around the screen, have them put speech in terms of the bubble speech like cartoons. You can have them play music. And it's a good way because, I mean, all of coding is really communication. Whether it's a word processor and you're communicating it to save the words that you're writing and print it, whether it's email, whether it's a program to draw, a program to play music. And, you know, when computers first started, when they had the mainframes and they had, you know, the big, large computers, IBM, Digital.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
You always thought of computers as being a computational tool, but really now, today, computers are really very much a conversational type tool, communication tool. People text message, they send email, they're on social media, they're on Facebook. And so a lot of what we use computers for is more of communication, which is good as long as you don't forget how to talk to people face to face, which sometimes happens too, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's so true. I don't mean to be one of these old fuddy-duddies that says, but with my niece and nephew, they mumble. Like you were saying, I think one of the big things that needs to be done today in schools is teaching people, like you said, in theater, to get up and to communicate and to be able to project their voice. Because most young people today, to me, because of their iPads and their phones, kind of mumble when they talk, or at least that's maybe my hearing is going, but I hear mumbles, and I know with my niece and nephew, they enjoy it. They like it because you have to you can't figure out what they're really saying.
Sure.
Yeah.
And some of it too is like, I've even had bosses, sometimes they send you an email when it's just easier to talk. They send an email or a text message, you know, get this emergency. Well, if it's emergency, either call me up or find me. Sometimes people hide behind the technology if you're shy, you know.
Yes,
but
well, that's what my niece and nephew do. Yeah, you're right.
But in this world, I know either from selling, either going on interviews, teaching, whatever, face-to-face communication is always the best. We're humans, you know. You can read something and get a message, but if I tell you by looking at my face, my expressions, the way I emphasize the word, hand gestures, you get a lot more. So it has its places, but any technology that takes over something. I mean, even recorded music is live, but that's no reason to not see a live band play, you know?
No, I totally agree with you. Well, we have just a few more minutes. This has been a really interesting discussion. Do you have any plans? What if you could do what you would love to do for the rest of your life? What would that be?
I would love to be a philanthropist. I would love to write checks to help people out. I would love to volunteer, you know, my time, whether it's teaching, whether it's going to nursing homes, whether it's doing things I don't even know yet what I want to do. But I would love that. That would be great if I knew I just got up every day and just was helping people, and if I saw someone that needed help, you know, with money, I could do it. And so if my landlord wants to volunteer and pay for my rent, and if the electric company wants to pay, and cable wants to pay, and my car loan, people want to pay for it, I will volunteer.
Volunteer your whole life
exactly.
away.
But I think I have to get a job first, just as a backup plan.
Yeah, I think we all have to have a
yes,
backup
exactly.
plan.
And that's good too, you know. It's,
right.
So.
And so again, before we finish this interview, let's go over how people can get in touch with you if they're interested in your doing your writing, or various places where you can be reached on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, email, easiest way, email is ACOHEN, and then the number's 843@outlook.com. So again, ACOHEN 843@outlook.com. If people want to see my profile on LinkedIn, they just have to search for ACOHEN 843 or Alan Cohen, COHEN. They'll see this face, they'll know it's me. The same on Facebook. On Twitter, I have an odd Twitter name. It's Cellphone ESL, CELLPHONEESL. And I got the name for that as one time I thought that...
I was going to ask, how did you come up with that name?
One time I thought that, some students maybe on their lunch hours and work, they want like a half-hour ESL lesson. They could just call me up and we could talk over the phone. That didn't take off, but the Twitter name stuck and my audience grew. So.
Oh, that's great.
But I just thought it might be an idea. Again, if someone wants to learn ESL that way, I'm always open. It's thing with ideas, you try them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I guess as a Little League coach once told me in Chelsea, he said, swing at the pitches. I don't care if you strike out, but never get called out in strikes because you can't hit the ball if you don't swing. And that's how it's in life. You can't do something unless you go out and try.
Great. Well, that's great. What a great philosophy you have. The one thing, did we finish with all of the, I interrupted you, did you put all of the locations where you could be reached?
I think so.
What about where you said that you meet at the library or the school?
Okay, that's the Taunton Library, and I believe it's a grant through the United Way, so I think you either have to be in the Taunton school system or you have to be a student at Bristol Community College. So I don't believe anyone can just walk in. I think you have to be part of those programs. But
I see.
But you can contact me through that way. So if you see me at the library, certainly you can say hi. And
you would be glad to help people with coding at the library?
Coding, whatever, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of cities, Millis, North Attleboro, Medway, Milford, Bellingham, Attleboro, this area. So, yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. Well, again, thank you so much. It's been really interesting learning more about you and about your life and all of the adventures that you're in. And I hope maybe you can play the lottery or something and then you could be a philanthropist. Anyway, to end tonight's show, I want to thank Alan Cohen for spending his time with me. And next month we'll have. I'm going to plan on having a nurse come for an interview from the Senior Center.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Tell me what you like, what you want from me. If it's on tonight, oh yeah. I just wanna know, yeah. Want you sit next to me, yeah.